expounding on the intricacies of each. The speakers tonight are Sara Steffens and Kelly Downs. Sara is the former director of the Arts Council of Southeast Missouri. She currently serves on the board of directors for the Missouri Association of Community Arts Agencies and was named 573 Magazine Art Person of the Year in 2019. Kelly Downs is the current director of the Arts Council of Southeast Missouri. As a proponent of community activism through the arts, Downs has curated projects such as Elevate Cape and Projects 63703 and serves on the board of directors for the Downtown Merchants Group. Additionally, she is a 500-hour accredited yoga instructor who is very interested in the congruence of creativity and consciousness. In their In their presentation, Making the Ask, Steffens and Downs will discuss their views on community service and the arts. As individuals dedicated to both, they will offer insight into the challenges facing nonprofit organizations in the current political and social climate. We're going to split this talk into two sections. So I want to bring up Kelly Downs first. So please help me welcome Kelly. Welcome, Kelly.
Okay, so how do I know if the slides are up?
What did you say?
How do I know if the slides are up? Hi, everybody.
I'm going to share it right
now. Probably, yeah. I'll let you know at the bottom of each one. You're fine.
Is this a PowerPoint?
It's a Google slide. It's a Google.
So how do I start the slideshow? Ashley. Ashley. There should be. Oh, great. No, okay, perfect.
Okay, we're good?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so what I'm saying about nonprofits is that nonprofits, the purpose of them is to resolve the issues facing modern man through the intentional use of resources and the creative use of means. So when I was thinking about this, I always think about the Okavango Delta in Africa and how it floods, you know, every year in spring, and all these animals come and it's able to support all of this life. Because this resource is kind of running down the middle of it. What I think about democracy and modern civilization is that the indicator species of this particular ecosystem is the arts. And so when we're looking at how business is thriving in a local community, a lot of it can be drawn back to the arts. So one of the greatest threats to the health and well-being of an ecosystem is habitat destruction. So when we have habitat destruction, we see the collapse of species on top of one another. We start to see a lot of violence. We start to see chaos because something doesn't have the space to grow according to the way that it should. Now, the same thing is true of the arts. So it's instead of creating competition over resources, if we can create the space for something to thrive, then it's going to be more profitable. And so while arts organizations, the ones we're talking specifically about tonight, are nonprofit, we still need to make money and resources need to be involved. But what if we began to look at these resources in a totally different way? What could we use that we already have and rethink it to create something of value? So for the art to thrive in any community, I think that there's a couple of things that need to happen. There needs to be community collaboration, but there also needs to be a huge investment in artistic literacy. And right now, you know, nonprofits, there's a lot of larger nonprofits that are rooted in education. And the reason that they receive so much financing is because you're always going to have people to educate. This is always going to be a renewable sort of resource. So in order to create artistic literacy, which is the wellspring for art to thrive in a community, people need to understand and feel like they can communicate through the language of the arts. And this is in symbolic and metaphoric forms that are unique to the arts, and that they have enough fluency in at least one area of the arts to feel like they can act. So whether that's the performing arts, the visual arts, the literary arts, adults need to feel like they have outlets, but we also need to be investing in younger people. So I'm actually going to start with why it's important to have visual literacy and outlets for visual literacy, both in young people and in old people and older people, and how this affects the nonprofit world. So this is a presentation I call How a Rock and Roll Star and an Author Taught Me Everything I Know About Nonprofits and the Arts, and other fascinating hyperbole. Okay, so the two people that you will see on your screen, I don't want to make it boring for you guys because I think it's probably important too. No, that's okay. So here you have these two guys, Jim and Dave. Is there, like, I feel weird not being able to show this to people. Is there a way to like show this on a screen? Sorry.
I don't know how, I didn't know that, yeah, I got this one. Okay.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Okay. Okay, so if you guys can watch it, that's good. So anyway, so this is Jim and Dave. Jim James is the lead singer of My Morning Jacket. They're a Grammy-nominated band. They, you know, have played with everyone from Bob Dylan and Neil Young to, you know, the Alabama Shakes and some more recent bands. But they're one of the biggest live bands in America. And this is the author, Dave Eggers. He is a Pulitzer Prize nominated author who has spent a lot of his career writing really exciting books and giving voice to independent writers. Now, the reason I bring these two gentlemen up is because both of them are Midwestern guys who have achieved international fame, but they have invested most of their careers in arts education, visual literacy, and they've done some really, really exciting things with it. And so I wanted to give a little insight into what Dave did and how Jim's participating in that, and how that would apply ultimately to where we're at here and now. Now, Dave Eggers, he started his career in San Francisco, and he was a young writer. And they were outside of Berkeley, California. And they had young people who were working on this magazine, trying to do this creative enterprise. And one day the landlord came and told them that they needed to sell things, that this was not zoned for a nonprofit space, that it was going to be zoned for commercial. So they had to sell something. And so they're in the basement of this space, and they're looking around, and they see that this space kind of looks like the hull of a ship. And so they say, like, why don't we sell pirate goods? And they're like, well, we like have to make money, like, you know, and they're like, no, seriously, like, we'll sell pirate goods for the local Buccaneer. It's gonna do great. And so they go ahead and they do this, and it winds up supporting the entire program. And so I'm gonna, if you can play the YouTube clip under 826 Valencia, and
because your passion never runs out, you deserve monthly income that does the same.
okay. So I'll hold this up for everybody so you can see.
Growing up around a lot of teachers. My mom was a teacher, my sister became a teacher. And after college, so many of my friends went into teaching, and so many of my friends that were teaching in city schools were having trouble with their students that were keeping up at grade level in their reading and writing in particular. And they would talk to me about this and say, you know, what we really need is just more people, more bodies, more one-on-one attention, more sort of hours, more expertise from people that have skills in English and could work up with these students one-on-one. So when I moved back to San Francisco, we rented this building, and the idea was to put McSweeney's Quarterly that we publish twice or three times a year, and a few other magazines. We're going to move it into an office. We rented this. We're going to actually, and the idea was to put McSweeney's Quarterly that we publish twice or three times a year, and a few other magazines. We're going to move it into an office, and we were going to actually share space with a tutoring center. So we thought, we have all these writers and editors and everybody, sort of a writing community coming into the office every day anyway. Why don't we just open up the front of the building to students to come in there after school, get extra help on their written homework. So you have basically no border between these two communities, except for the landlord said, well, the space is zoned for retail. You have to come up with something. You've got to sell something. You can't just, you know, have a tutoring center. So we thought, while we were renovating this place, somebody said, you know, it really kind of looks like the hull of a ship. And somebody else said, well, you should sell pirate supplies. So this is the pirate supply store. And then right behind it, we set up this space, which was the tutoring center. So right there is the tutoring center. And then behind the curtain was the McSweeney's offices, where all of us would be working on the magazine and book editing and things like that. And what we were trying to offer was every day with one-on-one attention. The goal is to have a one-to-one ratio with every one of these students. And so, you know, it's been proven that 35 to 40 hours a year with one-on-one attention, a student could get one grade level higher. So we started off with about 12 volunteers, and then we had about 50, and then a couple hundred. And we now have 1,400 volunteers on our roster. It became this sort of weird, happy accident. So all the people I used to know in Brooklyn, they said, well, why don't we have a place like that here? And a lot of them have been, you know, former educators or would-be educators. So they combined with a lot of local designers, local writers, and they just took the idea independently and they did their own thing. They didn't want to sell pirate supplies. They didn't think that that was going to work there. So knowing the crime-fighting community in New York, they opened the Brooklyn Superhero Supply Company.
Okay, so basically all over the country, they've opened up these little, you know, sort of satellite locations. I volunteered with them right when I got out of college. I volunteered at the one in Chicago called the Spy Store, and it was hidden off the street and, you know, all these things. And the reason I bring this up is because Jim and Dave did this talk for an organization called Teach for Kentucky. And all of these organizations in Kentucky were coming together to discuss how we could improve the arts, how we can improve engagement in school for kids. Because if you don't have this group of people who are willing to mentor and invest in the future of your city or your sphere, the arts are going to die. So you not only need first the model of improving visual literacy for the students, but then you need a model for mentorship and for young kids to get the help that they need. So this is what they're doing. The version in Louisville, Kentucky is called the Young Authors Greenhouse. And what they've done is there's a place called the Opposite Shop. And they have this story inside this publishing house where one side of the shop is it was a set of twins, and one was sent to live in the sky and one was sent to live at the bottom of the sea. And, you know, all of the things in the sky world are like anti-gravity powder, and, you know, they're selling all of these goods related to this. And then in the sea world, you know, they're selling things related to underwater. And you ask, what does this have to do with nonprofits? Right? What does this have to do with what we're talking about? Because nonprofits have gotten into the mold of being stuck in, and also being fearful of stepping out of maybe where donors would be donating to them, or there's only so many programs they can fit into a year, and so you get stuck in a rut about what you're creatively willing to do because of the amount of weight that is on nonprofits right now, given the environment of social justice, of COVID, of all of these things. And so ultimately the point is that we need to get creative, right? So instead of just doing the same routine things that we do, having the same donors, how do we start to invite a lot of people into the process so that this becomes more of a collaboration? The government of Louisville, Kentucky, which is where Jim James is from and where a lot of these conversations took place, they decided that they were going to start this organization called Lift Up Lou. Now, Lift Up Lou was ultimately what prompted me to start Elevate Cape with the Arts Council. And basically the structure for it, if you go to that louisvillekentucky.gov app, is to allow all of the citizens of Louisville, Kentucky to stay connected, to be engaged in fun activities, to be compassionate and creative, to eat healthy and to exercise, to learn new skills and to reduce stress. This is all free of charge. So they have created this huge network of people who at any moment are willing to collaborate and are willing to support the mission of this singular group that works as an umbrella. And so you start to say, okay, what is our mission? We want to make sure people are healthy in mind, body, and in spirit. Well, how do we do that? We don't reinvent the wheel. We look at what we already have and consolidate those efforts into more organized efforts. And so the structure for Elevate Cape was, at first, we copied exactly what Lift Up Lou did. We had a schedule. You post, get me your content. I'll post it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And we started to do these really interesting projects around that. And it started to really see that people were working together, coming up with really cool ideas. But then what happened was that people were sending me content and I was doing all of the things behind the project. That doesn't work. It becomes untenable. And so we have to make sure when we're designing these structures that everybody has a collaborative spirit, that everybody is invested in the mission of it to show up and do what they say that they're going to do. So when we go back to like Elevate Cape and kind of what I'm talking about with the Arts Council right now, what we're really trying to do and what we're trying to imagine, and it started with Sara with like a lot of the projects we were getting into, with whether it was Feast Your Eyes or the new children's membership. We're trying to open the doors of the Arts Council up to a broader audience who previously did not consider themselves in the art world, because we have to redefine what the art world means. What our particular nonprofit needs as far as resources is not just money. We need people who are willing to show up, who are willing to be excited, who are willing to volunteer, who are willing to invest in kids, who are, willing to get people to come and to be interested. So you start with this singular mission of, we want to increase artistic literacy, but then you develop your programming around that singular mission and start to involve people who are working in similar ways. So the first thing with Elevate Cape, we started partnerships with the Downtown Merchants Group, the Cape Public Library, the City of Cape, Yoga East Healing Arts, Shakti and Free, Fingerprint Urban Dance, Top Talent, 20 North Pacific, Porch, The Edge, the Southside Coalition. These are people that we've all worked on with projects. That's a huge number of people that at any given moment, and I saw it yesterday, whenever one person within this group posts something, you already have 20 people who are willing to repost across their platforms of 700 to 800 people. So every time that happens, instead of just putting a shot in the dark, now you have marketing that is inherent to what you're doing, and it starts to spread out that way. We've done projects like Yoga for the Islamic Center, the Outdoor Sculpture TikTok Challenge. We did Project 63703, and we've done teachings with that. And finally, with regard to artistic literacy and its relationship to nonprofits, we want to give people opportunities to come into spaces where they're not used to going. And that's part of our artistic literacy, is developing an understanding with people that people need to be educated in this regard. And so we started an architects program, which is geared toward, we're doing partnerships with the university and the Community Connection Center to get art lessons to kids who need them, whether they are members, paying members. We have a one-to-one payment program, so that every time somebody buys an architect's membership, then a student at the Community Connection Center gets one. And we're doing both mail and digital, so that no matter if you have access to the internet or not, you still can have access to these programs. All of our gallery software, what is the new 360? Matterport. Ashley has put that in, so that we're going to start doing outreach to our senior members of the community, so that people who can't leave because of COVID have these opportunities. And so a lot of this, we're in a really difficult time politically, socially, and we can find it very easy to rest on the same things that have always worked, but they don't work right now. We don't have that option. And so in this political climate, in our contemporary climate, I think it's really important to be super creative, but also understand that we all need the support of one. Everyone has their own resource, and everybody has a different resource at a different time. And I think that looking at examples of people that you love and following what they're doing in their artistic communities is probably the biggest inspiration to me. I know Ashley does it. I know Sarah does it. I know Joni does it. Like, I know Josh does it. I know we all do it. Colton, I got you too. but if you follow what these people are doing and why you're inspired by it, and start to take these pieces and say, okay, like, how can I take something that's existing on this macro and apply it? It doesn't, all great artists steal, but it's can we do it in a way where the first part is it's design-based learning. So the first part is we need to have some sort of tangible thing that we're all trying to get done. And that becomes the thing that we all create conversations around. It's the thing that we all try to improvise around. So that's kind of my take on nonprofits and everything. Thanks.
So Sara Stephens, our next guest.
Am I in the eye here?
Yes, you're fine.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sara Stephens. I'll just kind of introduce myself and then just kind of talk about what we're doing with SEMO and the particular climate that we're at, and kind of give shout outs to Miss Kelly and Miss Ashley for what they're doing at the Arts Council, because I think what they're doing kind of is a great way to kind of open the door of how we were dealing with things with the arts and the non-for-profits, and then the solutions that they're finding to do in the COVID times. But again, my name's Sara. I graduated at Missouri State University in Springfield, Missouri, and I got a BFA with an emphasis of photography there and a minor in conservation and art history. And then from there, during my time there, I actually went to Italy for a semester and did a really cool project of actually going up to strangers and asking to take their picture. Was actually quite comical and I ended up having an exhibition there while I was there, and it was just really fun because you got to look at different cultures, take pictures of it, kind of record it, and it was just kind of really funny trying to, and it was like this, it wasn't a digital camera, it was a film kind of medium set camera. So it's like this chunky thing hanging around your neck, and you kind of have to look in and do a lot of pointing, trying to speak the language as successfully as you can. Kind of not working, but it was just really great, and it was just a really great experience that I had there. And then going from there, after graduating, 2 months later, I was able to get a job as a historical director in Perry County. That's about 30 minutes north of here in Perryville. I was there for a couple years, and then I had the opportunity to apply and be the director for the Arts Council of Southeast Missouri here in Cape, where I met the lovely Joni and Kelly and Ashley and all them. And it's just been a blast. And I've worked there for nearly 4 years, and it was just great working with the community, educating, working with students, working with the aging community. It was just amazing. Setting up First Fridays every month, providing for the community, doing First Friday artworks, collaborating with the businesses here, doing different stamp cards. One of my favorite things was probably our solo artists, to actually work with artists and help them get their shows into our space, how to apply for a show, answer calls and prospects for that. And then from there, I kind of just wanted to do a different pace. I decided to leave the Arts Council and actually go to the university. I really missed being on campus and helping students and all that. So now I'm the administrative assistant for the Theater and Dance Conservatory there. So I help people with the auditioning, helping the faculty and the chair. Ken and Rhonda have been great to work with, and it's just been very interesting switching from, because they're both nonprofits, a very community-based one, and then another one that's community-based but having to do with students specifically. And it's just been a total ride there. And then seeing the climate kind of change because of COVID, and what are the solutions for that? What are we doing to keep the arts alive in a time like this? Because I think if you look on the American for the Arts website, which is a great resource to look to see where the arts are at in the world, the status of them, non-for-profits really specifically, and it's a huge hit. We're taking a huge hit. We're even taking a deeper hit than what healthcare is doing right now. Last time I checked, they have a graph on the American of the Arts that you could go look today and see what the damage is to the arts economically. And it's in the billions now. It's insane. The arts sector has lost so much money from people not being able to go and see shows. A lot of that's even just attendance, people just buying a ticket. That doesn't even include people going out, before they go see a play or a show, they buy food, they stay the night at a hotel. Like, that is incoming monies that we're losing by people not coming into our community and seeing those shows. And so we have to do, a 180. We have to think of new solutions. And one of them Kelly really touched up on, which was collaborating. And that's a big thing that will help keep people alive. And then again, trying to find new ways to, like, if people aren't coming to shows, how can we get the show to them? We're kind of teaching them from going to shows in person and seeing that to now doing it virtually. And I know we're all getting tired of that, but we need to hang in there, God forbid. But one thing that we've done, at least for the conservatory, for shows, we're actually streaming them through Zoom. So part of that is like we're actually doing live shows, and then we're also recording it so people can rewatch it during Zoom and streaming it on our website for the weekend or however long. We're not making as much money. We're very heavily box office ticket based there, but that's just a solution that we're doing. And then one thing that has come up with this is we decided to do, it's just really exciting. There's this group in New York that is doing a campaign called Keeping Live Theater Alive. And what they're doing is they are actually asking huge name actors and playwrights, and just, it's amazing. Sorry, it's just so exciting. And you want to cry because it's bringing money back into us. So what they're doing is they're inviting actors and actresses like Kim Brockington, John Lithgow, Byron Cranston, just all these big names. And I think Robert De Niro is one and two. But what they're doing is they're asking these actors and actresses to record or animate a reading that they wrote, like whether it's from a script, music that they've written, an animation, story, that type of thing. That's anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes long, and they're actually reading it. they're recording themselves reading it and, messing with the video as much as they can or as much as they want, and then giving us a link to that we can then embed specifically on our website, where people can kind of go in and click on a video of them reading it, and giving a shout out to SEMO and to our any other organizations or universities that are part of this. We're actually one of 3 that are able to do this. So out of the nations, we're really excited. And so that's one way that we're doing to kind of raise money and kind of get out from the COVID umbrella. And then the other thing that we're doing is we're doing a Lanford Wilson Playwright Festival, and Lanford Wilson is one of the top playwrights. He's actually from Missouri, he has passed. He died about 10 years ago, 2011 or so, but we were able to get his name on the festival by asking his estate that, hey, we would really love to have that integrity and that just big name on the festival to get playwrights to come in and participate in this competition. And basically what the playwright is that people can turn in a playwright, it gets vetted, and then if you're the winner, you get some money, and then you also get a full production for it. And so it's just really insane. We just opened it up in September. The deadline is in December, and we've already have like 350 entries for this, and it's our first one. And we were just excited for 100, but having 350 is insane. And so that's just another kind of tick that we're trying to get out of from the COVID umbrella. And I know people have been asking us, like, how can we fix this, or how can we get our art out in there? And again, a big thing was collaboration, which Kelly beautifully touched up on. And just kind of going out and asking, like, what can we do? How can we help? It's just a big thing. One thing that Ashley has done that I think is really great, and she's kind of started this already, but I think it'll work even with the COVID times, is she has these newspaper dispensaries that she puts prints in and that she kind of delivers. It's cute, Ashley, be quiet. And she kind of like delivers them and drops them off at businesses. And it's a way that artists can disperse their work if it's not in a gallery. And then another thing is she has this kind of like case that she can also travel around and drop, that people can deliver their work and display it. And it's kind of like a traveling little exhibit for not too much money. And it's just, again, you really have to think about the different ideas to display work and collaborate. And it's a big thing to kind of just go and talk, and it's just really exciting.
Ashley talked about that last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
It's just really it's just very beautiful, like, to really come together. And I think one of the challenges that we did have to face, and we're getting used to it now, is switching over to Zoom and being virtual. Depending on how long this lasts, whenever we do kind of crawl out from quarantine, we're actually going to have to teach ourselves how to go out again, how to not just be just all cramped up doing things virtually all the time. We're really going to have to teach ourselves how to like go out and just be out in the open in the community, how to really go out and see shows, because people are going to be used to streaming shows. We're only doing it at a 30% capacity, which is nothing. And everybody's streaming, and even then people are they really paying attention streaming? It's just stuff to think about. And one thing that was kind of interesting is you get to see, I think the mental health is really, I think being cooped up is just really devastating, I think sometimes, because like even if you're in a Zoom meeting, you never really realize how really alone you are. And you just get used to wanting to be face-to-face people, even having a mask on and to be in a room, it's a little uncomfortable because like you're not seeing your face expressions that much. It's kind of like there's this guard up. It's almost like somebody crossing their arms, like they're in the defense. But it's just, what can we do? What ideas can we come up with to combat this and the challenges that non-for-profits are facing during this time? And those were just a few that we kind of talked about. And I didn't know if we wanted to do Q&A or talk about more, but that was just kind of my short little spiel.
I just wanted to comment on, I'm sorry, yeah. Comment on what you just said about once this and there's that the coming out, right? I thought about this a lot actually because I think there's going to be a heightened sense of anxiety for people when they're coming back out because it's like we've been so, protected, well, some of us, the majority of us with masks and so on, that do I really want to go out into, do I really want to get it? When is it safe again? All this, I know we've the vaccine and all these things that are happening, but still, I think there's going to be another whole big set of anxiety things that we have to deal with when that happens.
Yeah, and there's definitely has to be a reteaching. We kind of talked about this at the conservatory where we've talked about like how students are doing. A lot of them are being stuck in their dorms, and it's how lonely it can be now because the reason why you come to a college is so you can meet so many people, the different experiences, and now you guys are just not getting that as you normally would. And for those who are staying in the dorms, it's very hard because that's something that is like your own little community. And at the River campus, certainly because we have dorms there on the campus, and it's just interesting how people have commented, like even though you're right next door to another student, you guys get up, go to class, and then you go back to your dorm. And so there's not that excitement of being in a college campus really as much. We're not having those events anymore, or as often if we are, I mean, it stinks having to be so far somebody and not having that full conversation. And it just kind of breaks my heart because, that should be an experience that you guys should have, and it's kind of being taken away for the greater good. But I mean, just, it's just what it has to
But I think it's like in that loneliness, what do we look for? We look for art to comfort us, and it's like, I think that one of the biggest reassessments that has to happen is that like, when we're at our loneliest, we look for that song, or when we need cheering up, we look for that song, or that, that we see something online of somebody dancing in a really beautiful way, and like you want to share that. And I think that, when everything got quiet back in March and everybody was inside, and you would see like a video of somebody singing in like some sort of Italian alleyway or something, and you would like, and everybody just goes, oh my God. And it's like everybody stopped for a second and said like, our priorities are off. We're not doing something right. And then it's like the second we get back, we're just back to the same old stuff. And I think that we have to like imbibe a little bit of humor, like imbibe things with humor and with like levity and with a little bit of weirdness, because we've had a lot of weirdness, but like not good weird, and I feel like it's like it has to be up to like the real weirdos who are like good weird to be like, no, like wrong kind of weird. So like, and Ashley and I talk about this all the time that like, it seems like there's only so many ideas that are accepted as like, once this transition is made back to normalcy, that there's only certain ways back, and it's like, I feel like now more than ever is a time to just like feel like you could invent anything because nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows the right direction. There's not going to be a solid answer. And so like, I feel like this is probably the best little inlet just to see what you can get away with and invite things in that you wouldn't normally invite in.
I agree. I think the arts are going to be kind of that open door that people are going to use as kind of like that therapy during this time, and then kind of use it once we get back. We'll use it for that, like what the music or the podcast or your drawing or whatever. I think that'll be a big part of it. And anybody who says they can't do art, you all have art in your heart, so be quiet. True. So just singing. Everybody sings in the shower, I think.
I sing constantly and I'm terrible.
You are not terrible, but I am better at falsetto.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
He hits the high notes. You're right. You're right. No, I was looking at a venue. They made a festival announcement today,
Mhm.
and I was like,
Ideas are out there.
all
They're
right,
still
who's
coming.
playing? And like I'm looking, and I'm like, I mean, the Revivalists are pretty good. I'll go to Florida. Yeah, that sounds like I will take anything at this point. And
Mhm.
so I feel like, but like we also have an opportunity to create some cool stuff. Ashley and I think we talked a lot about this as far as like, the space next door, the space next door.
Mhm.
We have like all of this space that we're not using.
Mhm.
And so it's like, how do we redefine spaces, reimagine? And that's what's so necessary is like, there's so much cool stuff in Cape. There's so many opportunities, but it's like, we have to like figure out how to breathe some like life into things. And I think we've gotten so sick of Zoom meetings because it's just like you go to Zoom, how many people on Zoom right now are like, oh God,
Well,
this is
there are
getting.
some questions for
Are
you.
there? Okay.
Yeah. So,
Should have talked about sorry. Well, you brought up the new ideas because you did the bench thing, right?
Oh,
The
yeah,
bench,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
that
the
was a new
painting the
thing that kind of
benches.
like
Yeah.
developed during this time. That I thought it was really fun.
well, this kind of relates to that. The question is, how do you think the consumption of art will change after COVID? Will it go back to normal, or will it change forever?
Oh, that's a good
big
question.
Can I speak
Yeah,
to this real
yeah,
quick?
yeah.
So Jim James, who was like, one of the figures that I talked about, I look to him a lot as far as like the undercurrents of art, because I think he's got his pulse on something. And one of the things that he was saying as a musician was that, we used to be able to make money on our music, then Napster came, and then Spotify came, and now you can't make money as a musician selling albums. So what do? You tour. We used to joke as a band that, they could never kill live music. Well, now all of a sudden, and so these things that you thought were kind of like these guarantees, and what he said was like, if music comes back, I'm going to be very interested in people's open mics.
Mhm.
And I'm going to be very interested in making sure that if you cannot afford to come see us play, that there is an option for you to continue to be able to come. And I don't know if that's going to be a sliding scale. I don't know if it's going to be somebody else buys your ticket and we do it that way. But we have to make sure that people who have been adversely affected by what is happening, 5 million people by December 5th are not going to have what they need. And so you go, okay, is it food that's more important, or is it art? And it's like, well, one is spiritual food. One is like the food that we eat, but the other one is the one that like keeps us wanting to stay alive, And
And I think
think
that's. Go
I was
ahead.
gonna just say on the flip side of that, I think a lot of musicians and artists and actors and so on are realizing the importance of the audience. I think that might have kind of
Mhm.
because they want to perform and they're doing all these live, well, they're all in their own studios and doing these performances together and Princess Bride, let's reenact Princess Bride, all these things because they want to perform. So I think it's also on the side of the artist too, that they need to feed their own souls. It's not just the audience, but the artists themselves. So there's a I mean,
They're
it's
still
huge.
creating.
Yeah, it's a huge kind of I don't know concept, and to see how that's all going to play out is going to be really interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if you can really say. I don't know if I'd like to think when it's all over. I mean, my family and I loved going to live mics or comedy shows or just anything. And I just don't know if it'll be like one full rush. Things are going to be sold out all the time for a long time, or if there's going to be some hesitancy there to be like, well, let's just kind of wait and see. And then, of course, we've talked about this already, is like the reteaching of having to go out. I think I saw movie theaters were going to start opening again, maybe.
Oh, they've been open.
Have they? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. It's just,
No, but
Interesting
nobody's in
Molly.
the theater. Nobody's there.
I know. I mean, now everything's getting pulled back again. So with the new insurgents and things.
yeah, it's, I don't know.
I think there also could be some access as no longer really like a barrier or an issue for anyone, you're gonna see some of those infrastructures get bolstered. Like once people start coming out of the woodwork, you're definitely still gonna have a group of people that are thinking, how do we make this better next time this happens?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're gonna see a lot of technology come to the consumer, like the Matterport technology that we're using that you can get on your iPhone, and like you can go to World Market right now and virtually walk through a shop and pull things off the shelf and put into your cart and buy, which is, I mean, I guess good and bad for art, but you're just gonna see some of those alternative ways of consuming things play in tandem with what are more traditional, I think.
Yeah.
I think eventually it's going to come to a head. Yeah. But I mean, I definitely will say, I do think some positive because we've learned to kind of like grow from this and say like, oh, look at all these options that we never really thought we could do. And then now, and some of them may even be like, well, with some of these options, we could keep this virtual way because it seems to be more productive, save money, and there's not as much manpower. But I don't know.
That's like, I mean,
I don't know.
That's,
Like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
We're always gonna kind of like leak around the fence, whatever that fence is. And right now that fence is we can't see each other. So we're like, maybe I could like dig underneath of it and like
well, the virtual gallery that you were saying that's like on your phone, I clicked on that. I'm like, since when did we get that? That's really neat. Oh my gosh. So I think that's something that could eventually stay around for those who can't make it to the gallery whenever, even if we are back to normal.
Exactly, because we have people that were homebound before COVID.
I know,
That,
and that's,
we're immunosuppressed that couldn't go to a free Friday open house. And now they are accessing a world that they can feel like they're with the masses. So while we who get to walk around all of the time maybe feel more lonely, think about the people that were lonely before that now we can feel like kind of part of that.
Like I can join in too.
Yeah. And I think we should keep some of that spirit.
Since we have a lot of students, I had a question, and this is kind of going back a little bit to what you guys were both talking about. So let's say a student wants to get involved with nonprofit. What kind of advice would you give to them?
oh man,
I'll start and then if you
Yeah,
want to follow. So what I did, I start as early as you can, first off, whether that's volunteering for an arts council, volunteering at a museum, whatever, and it doesn't have to be those, it can be any non-for-profit. It's as simple as getting them on the phone or walking into the business or emailing, contact them however you want and just say, hey, I have some free time. I really care about this, your non-for-profit because of this mission. I'd love to volunteer my time, whatever it is. Because if I know for one thing, working non-for-profits, they will not turn away a helping hand. They always need help, whether that's for an event. And you'll just love the experience that you'll get. And it's something that you can definitely put on your resume. And it's skills that you cannot get anywhere else from just sitting in the classroom. You have to do some hands-on work. And don't be afraid to, if somebody says no or anything, just let that slide off your shoulders and just definitely get involved as early as possible. Talk to your teachers. I'm sure they know some non-for-profits that would be willing or need some help, whatever that is. I know CAPE has a ton that is looking for volunteers, especially during this time. Start as early as you can because those are tools that you won't be able to get just by reading a book or sitting in a classroom. Get involved.
So whenever you volunteer for these nonprofits, there are a lot of different things you could have done too, right? Like there were a lot of different things with stuff and PowerPoint. So what are some of those? Because I know you mentioned like the yoga and like just what kind of things would you be doing?
Do you want to talk about this one?
well, I think that's, yeah, I think that that's like really where our current organization is beginning to tackle everything so that we can be organized enough so that if we need volunteers 2 weeks from Friday, that we can just say, this is how you can help. And we're starting to do that with our membership because membership is not just, whatever perks you get from a space. It's also like how you're participating too. And so I think that, showing up for one of the architects programs, like the one that we have this month is the Cabinet of Curiosities. And
I
we're,
read that.
I love it. So this thing, and it's inspired by the whole Dave Eggers idea, but we're going to turn this cabinet into both like part merch, but also a place to display the kids' artwork, to sell things that they make, eventually, hopefully do small publishing, bring some of the students from Nancy's class with bookmaking. She's doing a lot of bookmaking and fibers, you know, help out with things like that, and just looking for how we can collaborate. But I think the biggest thing is come to us with an idea. Like that, to me, that's the part where it's like, get involved 100%, stay involved 100%, but also bring something. If you go to somebody with an idea and say like, hey, I really want to I want to do something in this regard, dream it into being, because I think we need that so badly.
Yes, yes, yes.
And
Absolutely.
young
And do the
people-
work.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because the thing is, you know, you do a nonprofit event, and this is what everybody who is involved in nonprofits now understands. You go, oh, I wanna do a fundraiser for some dogs, you know, and it starts there. And then you're like, okay, like I'm gonna let people know, and then I'm gonna put up like a little sign on my Facebook, and like one person's like, cool. You're like, shit, what am I gonna have to do to get people to like do something for the dogs? And then like you show a picture of you and your puppy, and then like, you know, then put that up, and you're trying all these things. And like, then you're like, man, I'm gonna call 5 people who love animals. And I'm gonna be like, get your ass down to the shelter,
Come
bring
support.
some towels, bring some newspapers, go get a bag of dog food and meet me at the shelter. And so like, that's the kind of like, we need just not like, hey, we need like, hey, you're gonna come to the thing and we're gonna show up and we're gonna do it. That kind of enthusiasm.
And don't be afraid to like come. It may kind of be scary or be uncomfortable, but you kind of have to grow into that. So like one intern, I'll never forget her. She was the sweetest thing. I kind of asked her, what are you wanting to get out of this? Working with the Arts Council or interning here, and is there something that you'd like to come into this? And she was very soft spoken, but she's like, well, I do kind of graphic design, and I do want to design like postcards and stuff. And we did that with her, but she was also like, I really want to learn to kind of talk in front of people, so public speaking. And I was like, we have opportunities for that. Do you want to? And she's like, yeah, I'm nervous about it, but I'd like to do it. And she did so well speaking in front of for First Fridays or introducing artists, interviewing artists. It was a really good thing, and she really loved it. So don't be afraid to kind of do something that makes you a little uncomfortable. Because that could be a challenge that you'll overcome, because public speaking, for one, is you need to do that in a lot of areas. And that was just an example. But did you have anything particular that you were thinking
I
of,
was
Skill?
just curious, honestly. I'd be interested in like volunteering. I just honestly don't really know all the different areas that I could
Yeah.
volunteer, you know, so I don't really have anything specific.
Sure. I mean, the Arts Council would be a great one. Old Town Cape is another one. Gosh, just there's so many.
We have like so many
Humane
coming up
Society.
too, because we're also like in the spring, we're starting to do a large parks initiative with the city of Cape, where we're actually, and that's part of the benches and that whole project, where we're actually like planting new stuff, getting new playground equipment, like helping with murals and stuff like that. So I think that we're seeing that an active citizenship or membership is an essential part of any nonprofit, that you can't have like a sort of stoic board and a malaise membership. You need people who are like down with it, you know.
Yeah,
I
if
think-
that answers.
I was just gonna say, there are 2 ways to think about it, at least because, you know, I'm trying to get people to do stuff all the time, right? And so there are 2 ways to think about it. One, I love when people just show up. If you
Yes.
just show up and you're there and you're reliable, we'll find you something to do. So if you want that approach, if you're like, I'm not sure, you know, exactly what I want to do, just show up. That's great. The other approach is come with an idea. You know, some people are shy, they don't really know what they want to do yet. So either way, you know, I like what Sarah said, sometimes you have to grow into it. but showing up is just is huge. You don't have to have, oh, I'm going to change the world right away, but just be there and, pick up a plant and put it over here, or organize people and move them over here. I mean, it could be as simple as that. And then once you get used to that organization or whatever you're doing, you may see, oh, I see, well, maybe I could fit in here, or maybe here's a hole I can fill right here, those kinds of things.
And
So-
you'll meet so many new people, and then you'll be able to you'll both be able to communicate and talk about your ideas, and then it just kind of blossoms from there. It's how quickly it can. You'll just meet so many new people, and then when you actually go out and try to find a job, you can say, here's all, I mean, that's, as an employer, that's what I'm kind of looking for. What they'll look for is like, what are these extra things that you did? What did you bring to the table that kind of makes you on the up and up against somebody else that's interviewing with you for the same job? And then that can be an extra person like Joni, you could put on your resume for somebody to call, and that could be another person that could vouch for you and say like, yes, she's credible. He or she's credible. She shows up. She's reliable.
And if you show up for these organizations, they're gonna show up for you later on. Like I'm the exhibitions coordinator at the Arts Council, so when I'm working on the 2021 solo exhibition, and I'm thinking of artists that I want in that space, if I have seen you and you've been there and you've consistently been there and helped, your name's gonna be on the top of that list of people I want. So it's called the Joe Biden. Just be there. Anytime there's anything, be there. And eventually you're gonna be the one to get picked when
That's
when
right.
an opportunity
That's
comes
totally
up.
true. That is
And
totally true.
most organizations, I know for me, it's hard for me to go somewhere like blindly, but most organizations have newsletters. I highly recommend putting your name on a list for newsletter anytime that there is one, because you're gonna see what they're doing, what events are coming up that you can help with. Our council has one.
Following social media, all that kind of stuff, because then you get like kind of a vibe of what they're doing, what they're putting out, and so, just kind of do some like cyber stalking on some local organizations.
We want that.
It's cyber stalk your local organization.
We have some questions from the Zoom audience. So this is for Sarah. Can you give me an anecdote of events that may have worked well or been successful before COVID?
Oh gosh, events that were successful before COVID.
From the Arts
Craft fair. That is a good
Oh,
one.
God.
Yes. I'm like,
To say it?
yeah. Oh my gosh. I don't know how you guys are doing it, but you guys are doing it. Probably the biggest one was at the Arts Council in the craft fair. If you guys don't know what the craft fair is, it's our yearly major bread and butter fundraiser. That is a weekend event hosting and dealing with the best vendors ever. But it's just, it's just so many people, 300 vendors at 2 different venues, and then getting ready for a weekend of 14,000 people to come. It's crazy and it's a lot of work, but that was our bread and butter. And that is something that it thrives on being in person. And that is a generational one. It's been going on for 50 years, so it is well established. And that, again, that's the Arts Council's main fundraiser. And now that is something during COVID we are not able to do. We had decided before I left to turn it virtual. And now Ashley and Kelly are kind of taking charge of it, or the Arts Council and the board is too. And that has just turned from, thousands of people of coming to what we think not as many people will come. It's not going to make as much money. It's just not. But I think it kind of opens the door to maybe something else that could be virtual separate once we
No, it's
get
like
back
a
to
great
normal.
thing to go through. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like we see how we could make something like that viable.
Yeah.
In a different way. So like all of these skills are teachers.
Yes.
Like they,
Yeah. I think it'll be just interesting to see and everything. But that was one thing. But yeah, what would be another one?
I feel like that's like a really present example.
Yeah. It's happening, what, tomorrow?
But I mean, the same could be said with the university. I mean, again, like I said, with the conservatory, there's very box office heavy. So if we're not having events or shows where people could come in and buy tickets and we're streaming, we've had like 1 or 2 shows, I think, that were in person, but we did not have the same capacity as people. So of course we're not making as much there. And so a lot of it, I think, is like live shows.
Yeah.
It would be live shows, but yeah.
This is for both of you. What was your favorite event to volunteer for or work on? So like maybe before you guys were in, established director positions or whatever, what was your favorite event to volunteer for or work on in your past?
Like before Arts Council?
I think that's what this means, yeah.
Um,
Like your first maybe grassroots thing or first thing that you volunteered for that was, fulfilling.
For many years, I worked at a transitional housing shelter in Chicago. And like, I think that being there and being around people and being around an organization that was creating sustainable change was always something I found very interesting. And I continue to seek out organizations that are not just, putting a patch on something, but are actually like getting to the underlying causes of things and trying to fix it from the ground up.
I have to think about it. I don't know. I've always been kind of more into the art world. I participated in doing arts, small art classes. This was when I was in college for the university there, and that was just really interesting, and just kind of teaching and do like little art projects for people and kids. I think that was really neat. This is going way back in high school, but also helping my mom teach whenever she taught computer class, helping her when I was in high school just to teach kids how to use the computer and type and all that. But
I'd say you've kind of come full circle back to working with students again.
yeah, I know, it really has.
Yeah.
It really has. But that was just showing up to work with my mom. Like when I was done with at school, she still had like she had like an after school program where she was helping kids who were struggling with their studies or what have you, and then going over there and teaching them, helping them with the stuff that they needed to, or reading,
Yeah, there's
whatever
like
it was.
a ton of cool things like reading, like where you can read to kids in the morning, and you just volunteer every morning. United Way has like, they need people after school just to like play basketball with kids. It's like, whatever I think you got to figure out your age group and then figure out like the subject that you want to get into and then kind of narrow it down.
Yeah.
We got one more here. This is for Kelly. I have seen Kelly's outreach in the community with her podcasts. Will there be more podcasts to promote the Arts Council?
Oh my gosh. So great question.
Oh, or the second question you already asked. Can there be a craft fair online? Yes, there is one. It starts Saturday, and maybe one for each season. Yeah, let's do 4 of them. You want to do 4 Yes. Ashley and Kelly say yes.
But I think it's cool. But I think it's cool that you guys are doing the virtual thing. I think eventually that'll be like no, okay.
So the question about the podcast.
So actually we are working right now at starting a podcast called Convergence, which is about bringing outside perspectives in. So we're gonna launch that, probably like a version of that in about a week and a half, and then we're just gonna try to get some regional and national artists to have some conversations with us about an outside perspective, just to offer that. I think it'll be cool.
I have a question. Are you guys gonna ever start Java with Joni again?
Java with Joni was the best show. She dressed up like a medieval woman and it was so good.
Sorry, the podcast
I was gonna wear the Tyrannosaurus Rex costume the second time, but then COVID.
Then COVID.
Too bad. Yeah.
I was just curious. But the podcast thing made me think about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, is Java with Joe gonna come back?
Okay, anybody else have any questions in Zoom land? I really encourage all the students that are listening or anybody who's listening to